by the time you're in shooting range, your heart's just like, it's like the cat going for the bird in the backyard.
Absolutely,
right?
whatever your quarry is. If you're if I'm sneaking up on a chicken, if I'm involved in something, and my end goal is to get that thing, it doesn't matter what is going on. I'm jazzed.
Welcome to the Wilderness Wavelength Podcast.
Welcome to it. This is another episode of the Wilderness Wavelength Podcast, and it's a big one, too. The three guests here tonight. This is exciting. Scott Sunderwald, one of the regulars, back.
Hello.
Thanks for coming back, Scott. We're getting into hunting techniques. Aaron Jones, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
And another returning guest, Matthew Ritchie.
Thanks.
Matthew Ritchie at the next chapter. You can find Matthew there. I should mention Aaron Jones, aj.fishing.alberta on Instagram, and flyfish-bowhunt-alberta on YouTube. And, of course, Scott, Northern Rockies Bushcraft on Instagram. So, hunting season here. We're talking hunting strategies on this episode. How's hunting season been for you guys so far? Any success?
Lots of success. I haven't punched a tag yet, but success in the terms of a lot of excitement and having a lot of fun and opportunities not taken for the best interest of stuff. And I've had a lot of ups and downs so far. So taking October off and just getting back into deer hunting now in November.
Okay, yeah, perfect. And Scott, you've had some success this month.
Yeah, I've got adult kids, mostly in university, so they're looking for meat. So worked with them to fill 4 tags and
nice.
Processed 4 deer, and but the clock's ticking. We'll be trying to double that before the season's over, I think.
And Aaron, you been out much yet, or?
I've been out about 3 or 4 times, mostly fishing until I can't fish anymore. But rut's coming up right now, so good time.
It's hit the last 2 days. It's really hit. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. Exciting about the rut because the last 2 days after that snow, the roads were just hammered, and see them chasing does hard, and their necks are starting to get swole up. Yeah.
Do you guys find? I know some of the research I was looking at, people are a little more worried about hunting in the rut because the meat's not as good. You guys find that? Any issue with that?
I always say the biggest bucks I've had were the worst tasting deer. I mean, there's some truth to that, but it's also how you process it.
How you cook it.
Yeah, how you cook it.
And they're run down a lot of fat. They're burning their fat, but then again, you can have a big rump on a buck, and it's still fatty, heavy fat in November. It's hard to say. You can say yes, and you can say no. Guys will say no. It's all how you process it, and I'm telling you, you can tell the difference between a rutted up buck and an early season buck. Then on the other side, I've had late season bucks, and I eat them all the same, so it don't make no difference.
I'll eat them, but if you're frying up that chili in the kitchen and it's a buck in the rut, you walk in the room and you can tell, right?
You notice. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking hunting strategies on this episode. Aaron, you've been on a few times when we talked about this a bit. You're big into the hunting blinds and the tree stands.
Yep.
What was your success rate pretty good with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You put a lot of time in it, and I have a lot of tree stands.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking, you got 40 some tree stands.
Yeah, somewhere right around there.
Yeah. How do you choose which tree stand to go to?
Well, I mean, I have a strategy, right? I'm looking for mineral licks in the off season.
Okay.
So I'm looking for natural mineral licks.
Yeah.
When I find one, I'll put a bought tree stand on it.
Yeah.
And then trail camera first. And then if you're getting stuff there, I'll put a bought tree stand on it. And then I'll go hunt that for a reasonable amount of time, maybe 4 or 5 different sits. And if I'm seeing animals, if I'm still getting animals on my trail cam, I'll put a permanent tree stand in there.
Okay. Wow.
Nice, big, comfortable tree stand.
Yeah.
And I keep track of my not success, but whether I see animals or not. So I keep track of how many times did I sit on that stand? How many times did I see animals?
Wow.
And just by doing that, you sort of narrow it down a little bit more. You have the stands that you have more success in seeing animals from. And of course, I'll say the thing about mineral licks is it's only, I shouldn't say only, but primarily a successful strategy in early season. Well, bow season, basically.
Yeah.
Once the animals harden off their antlers,
Yeah.
they're not that interested in mineral licks anymore.
Okay.
So it's a bow season kind of thing. And then I have obviously tree stands that have nothing to do with mineral licks, and they're in funnels and edges of fields and that type of thing.
What's a comfortable tree stand for you?
About
Do you
3
build?
feet by like 5. Yeah, like I build
okay.
them. I have a whole like video on YouTube on how to build a really killer tree stand. Like
I might have found one of yours.
yeah. Well, they're all built the same.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're all built exactly the same.
Yeah, there's one particular. I will only.
Don't give away the location.
Oh, never in a million years would I. And I've never been back. But like when we walked through with the camera setups and how they were positioned, the guys were very smart how they positioned their cameras, and then the stand or like the platform, it was beautiful. And I smiled for the cameras and get big things up and I like jump, and I looked around and like I was like, nice. And then of course, and we've never been back like ever. I bet you I've never been within a kilometer of that spot. But
and I've never, when you find a mineral lick, first thing you do is look for a tree stand.
Yeah.
And if there's a tree stand there, then it's off limits. I'm not going to put another tree stand there, right? Like it's just, you don't go back.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, but something like that.
So with your trail cams, I'm curious because, just because a nice buck comes through at 2 a.m. every day, is that enough? Or are you patterning them, making sure that it's at a time that you're going to be there, or how much does that factor in?
And it factors in a little bit, but if there's a buck in the area or an elk or a bull moose, at least there's one in the area. And just because it's been showing up at night, I mean, I've shot a lot of moose that I didn't have on trail cameras, right? But I had cows there.
Yeah.
And then you get close to that like third week of September, and the bulls are coming to the mineral licks looking for the cows. Yeah. And so you might not even have like a bull on the trail camera, but there's cows coming there. So
yeah,
I mean, I have this one tree stand where I shot a moose or somebody close to me like every year until they changed the bow season and you can't hunt in 344.
I got the last year on that. I was starting to get heavy into bow hunting, and Buddy was like, I know where there's a bull moose, and I'm like, it's open. Better get out there and make it happen, right? Yeah. But I question about, so if you're pattern, say a buck, and you're in an area and it's very nocturnal, and say it's traveling, just for the story, west to east, that it's always late at night, and would you ever anticipate, if you want, because you're early season bow hunting, that's fun. So if you want to get that big velvet buck, would you change your location to target that animal? Say if the bedding area is 500 yards away in the thicket and they're bedding down off where they're coming off water or whatever, would you just hope that you might get a chance later in season, or would you move?
No, I move tree stands all the time.
Okay.
Like I have I probably have 10 or 15 tree stands, bought tree stands.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll move them all the time.
Okay.
The other strategy that I think we should talk about is scent control, because I'm like obsessed with scent control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you run your washing machine with scent controlled stuff empty, and then you run it with your clothes. You put it in your dryer with the right fabric thingamabobby, right?
Yeah.
And then you put them in a scent lock bag, and you drive out to the spot, and you dress there. And I have an ozonics. I don't know if you guys know ozonics.
What is ozonics?
Pardon me.
What's ozonics?
Oh, it's a.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a device that puts out ozone.
Okay.
And
completely neutralizes any odor on anything, and it's there. You can get coolers, you can get traveling bags with these ozone kits in them, and there's something. My hunting partners, you and him you guys could talk about that for 6 hours straight.
But because I've noticed a difference.
Yes, well, your success rate
like
would
it's
be
everything. I forgot the shower. Like always shower before you go with the right shampoo, the right underarm stuff, the powder to go in your boots.
Yeah.
What do you think of those so-called scent eliminating sprays?
I think that's just one thing that you do. Like I do that as well, but it's the whole regiment of everything that you do especially when you're bow hunting, right?
Right, sure.
You got to be like close, right? When
Yeah.
you're rifle hunting, not as much, but
Yeah.
when you're bow hunting, every little advantage that you can get, and obsessive.
Yeah, I used to do a scent bag. I used to bow hunt more in Saskatchewan and throw some sagebrush in there, just something that is really pungent. Hang my clothes out overnight and then put them in a bag. So when you pull it out, it smells heavy of sage, right?
Warren gives me hell. I jump in, I'll rip on the bait, and he doesn't even give me any grief because we do hunt hard. We hunt so hard, and I'm active foot hunter, so I'm playing the wind constantly. So I'm never putting myself. If the wind's bad, I'm not even going to put myself in the position to jump. But it's very important to control that, and it is the regiment getting up, and my wife's even on game plan with she won't run a wash or rinse cycle for me when in between loads, but she'll make sure that my scent killer goes in there and they get folded up and they get put aside up on the shelf away from everything, so the cats don't crawl on it. So the dogs, because I have a dog in the truck all the time too, so I won't even I'll pack my stuff up. I'll wear my civvies, my street clothes, and I'll drive out there and strip down, throw all my hunting gear on, because get out in the woods, you can smell somebody from 800 yards away.
Yeah,
like you're sitting there downwind of somebody and they lit a dart earlier in the morning, and you're like, what
sure
the
enough.
are you smoking a cigarette? And you put your head out and you see them coming down the trail with their Nike hat on.
So speaking of hunting gear, then, like hunting clothes, are you guys really in specific camo? Do you have specific camo for each season then? And
I have scent lock clothing,
yeah,
right? Like underneath.
yeah,
And then I have different camo for where I'm sitting in a tree.
yeah.
Yeah, like a spruce tree is compared to an aspen tree.
Green's early season elk, and then my dark and dusty mossy oak.
Matt, make sure you're
Walmart's.
talking a little more into it.
Sorry. The fancy greens for elk hunting, like the Sitka. I actually have somebody. I was very nice. Anyways, I got a set of that, but I love my Walmart mossy oak stuff for mid-late season when it starts going brown. Man, I can lay in a pile. You couldn't see me.
Yeah. I think there's a few things I've learned the hard way with camo. Number one, winter camo is the best. Like, I literally have had bucks stare at me, and I'm like 30 yards away, and I'm in full white with a white balaclava. They don't have a clue what I am if they can't scent me, because in their evolution they're not used to a predator standing in white snow. It's just something that's not at all in their purview. The other thing is movement. Movement's huge. Like, you could probably get away with a plaid shirt if you're sitting totally still, but the movement's going to give you away more than that fancy camo, right? And the scent, as we said. So those are a few things for sure. The other is the face. Have you ever taken a picture of a guy standing in camo in the trees, and the body's perfectly covered, but that face will pop, and
Hands are the same.
And if we can see that, like, deer are so animal behavior is focused on eyes, right? So if you can put that bow hunting mask on when you're stealth hunting or whatever, it makes a huge difference.
Are you getting painted up then too?
Oh yeah, well early season. Yeah, we got to get the war paint on, boys.
Especially when you're in a blind. If you're in a blind,
it's
blackened out behind you, right? So
right.
You don't want to have a
that's
white
weird.
face.
I use those. I don't know what they're called. They look more like a veil, and they're easy to slip over, and all you've got is your eyes peering through, and they're quick.
Yeah.
So the other thing that people use is thermocells. So I don't know. You guys don't? Do you do a lot of tree stand hunting?
I don't. I got the ADHDs real bad, so I've done it. I've shot animals from trees, and about the 3 hour mark, I don't know what's like. I'm shaking up there, wanting to get going. My knees tapping, and
That's kind of why I say that I build a big tree stand, because the more comfortable you are, the longer you can sit in a tree stand.
Yeah.
But thermocells, do you guys know what thermocells
Yeah.
are?
That's for killing the mosquitoes?
Yeah. Well, they keep them away. They're like magic.
Right.
Like, they're just magical. And that makes a big difference if you're in a blind or in a tree stand.
So you do use them then?
Oh, I
Okay.
use them all the time.
You're not swatting. Yeah.
Well,
see, it's really interesting to me, Aaron, because I've been hunting here for 20 years, and I'm fairly successful, as are you, but we use two totally different techniques, right?
Me
I'm
too.
not a tree stand guy, and I used to hunt prairie provinces in Saskatchewan especially, and I can see the value on private land. Farmland with a tree stand makes a lot of sense. You got your corridors, your fence line, your alfalfa field, your lentils. You know they're coming out at 6 o'clock tonight. You're set and ready. So I've had many years of that. But coming here, it was like, oh my goodness, this is needle in a haystack. Like, there's no reason why that deer needs to come down this corridor, because it can feed nearly anywhere, right? So it's a big game of interception. So I'm using, stealth. I call it stealth hunting. Some people call it still hunting, which I think is a misnomer. But so I'm pulling out a few other bags of tricks there, and I won't say I have ADHD, but if I sit for 3-4 hours in a ground blind, I'm like, I'm done.
But could you kill a white-tailed doe stalking it?
I have.
Well, that's impressive.
But I'll tell you how.
You would starve to death if you had to.
I'll tell you
in the rain
or wind.
In the early season when they're not jumpy. But I've gotten close enough, and the only time is in the rain and it's wet because they can't hear you, and you got to be perfect. But I told somebody just recently, he's like, "Do you think I could stalk a doe?" And I was like, "Man, if he's
the hardest thing."
I said, if you can with your bow. If you can stalk a doe, he's down south, Calgary area. And I'm like, if you can do that, you need to write an article. You'll get published. People,
they're so hard.
They're cagey, man.
Yeah.
No, I did it. The rain, absolutely, like the damp ground. The other is heavy winds. So if you're like, oh, crap, I only had Saturday off and it's whipping winds, it's a bad time to hunt, go into thick bush.
Yeah.
There's so much noise and their ears are so good that they're hearing branches sway and crack. And I've walked right up to does, but that's few and far between. The other is rattling.
Yeah.
I rattled in does that literally once bow hunting, like I turned around, I could almost touch her. And she had come right up my back. I had that sense that something was watching me. Turn around, and I see her big ears behind me, and I come turn around with the bow, and she's gone. But they'll come into rattling.
Mule does. Absolutely. Last year up north, I was going for my first mule buck. I've never gone after one. She was so rutted up, stink. The smell coming off of her was almost putrid, and she'd just come up. She'd bat. That's all I was doing. I bleat, 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 grunt, 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 rattle, rattle, rattle. I have one sequence, and that's what I've killed basically every buck I've ever shot with. And those does came right up, but I'd never smelt a deer like that before. She was full estrus. It was hunting.
Wow.
Get out of here. Shoot. It's a great decoy, but if she wasn't standing from me to you away looking at me, batting her eyes, right? Like,
yeah, when you're rattling, but then there's also calling. I noticed, Matthew, in the video you posted, I think yesterday, just the moose, like you saw a moose, and just as it was running away, then you did like a call, and it like stopped and turned back.
Oh, I was just grunting at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick grunt. I was actually cow calling at it before, and earlier on, and like before I took the video, and he was stopped right up. I have an old F-150 clapped out, and it's jet black and dirty. Looks like a bull moose standing on the road, right? Be surprised if you like nosed your truck into it so it can't really see how, and it's just looking at a big black thing, and they turn around square up, and, and I'm like, oh, right on. But I was actually on a pack of wolves. What I got distracted with yesterday, I was coming down in my deer hunting spot, and then 5 wolves running up the road, and I'm like, well, it's wolf hunting morning. I can't help myself. That's what I love. Predator hunting is my thing. And so I went in and I tracked him down to a section where I know the road closes off. And anyways, long story short, nice big bull moose, and brought him to a stop on the road. But that's what those 5 wolves had pushed him out onto the road, out into a cut block. So, and I know those wolves are sitting back in that tree line, like they were smart enough to stay out of sight.
When they were talking about, so I was doing a little research trying to figure out like what is the most popular type of hunting. So blind hunting, tree stand hunting, number 1. Number 2, Scott, is the still hunting. Can you give us a few tips on still hunting then? So you're...
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. You know, it's not cut and dried. None of these categories are. So I prefer the term stealth hunting.
Sounds cooler.
Yeah. Because still hunting sounds like you're still.
Yeah.
So what you want to do? Well, this is what I do. So what what I do, find good habitat, number one. So if you're looking for white-tailed deer, and I have friends are like, how do you get your deer every year? And I said, well, look for hills and poplars.
Yeah.
Now you're in deer country, right? Don't be down in the muskeg, and the tamarack and the black spruce. Sometimes they'll hide in there, but that's not primarily where they're hanging out. So get to good habitat, watch the wind, and then start walking, but don't march. That's the number one mistake hunters make, is they just start marching, and nothing in the bush marches except for elephants and maybe a grizz on the prowl. So, I make myself stop, like walk 5 steps, stop.
Yeah.
5 slow steps, stop. You should be stopping more than you're walking. And stuff makes noise in the bush all the time. So little noise is not a problem. If it's super crunchy snow, I might start rattling and fake a buck fight because I can't be quiet. Mm-hmm. And I've come across deer moving while rattling, and that's you don't hear that in the magazines. Most people are like, park your butt behind a tree and start rattling. I've had more success moving through the forest because a fight moves. Mm-hmm. And it's just as important what you're doing with your feet as what you're doing with those antlers, cracking branches, you're scruffing the ground, kicking. And I've had bucks run in on me like 2, 3 looking for the fight, and then I get my rifle up, they run away, rattle again, and they'll come back even though they've seen me, the hunter, standing there. So when it works amazing, but it's not a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, with the stealth hunting, it can morph from one thing to the other. And at some point, it might even morph into a deer drive. So you're like, I know this is a bedding area. I'm just going to push through this thing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to blow my cover. And then when the deer get up and start running, I'm going to bleat on a doe bleat. Boom, stop them in their tracks, just enough time. So it's like a bag of tools that you can pull out given the situation. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds complex, but often that's the way it works.
To add into that, like when I still hunt, is I have a good pair of binoculars. And when I'm stopping, I'm usually like every 10 steps. And I'm looking for horizontal lines, ears, antlers, all that sort of stuff. So like a good pair of binos.
Because they'll almost always spot you before you spot them. The other thing I would say, use a shooting stick. It's not a crutch. It's going to give you way better shots.
Yeah.
And if you're dirt cheap, I've got one I call the Lucky Willow, and I just cut this big 6-foot willow with a slingshot at the top.
Yeah. It's
easy. I've shot deer over 200 yards with the Lucky Willow, and sometimes you can't crouch down and get a good prone. The best one, I got the Jim Shockey tripod.
Oh,
so we've shot deer over 500 yards with that. So you can walk with it, quickly spread it out.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not going to get any closer because you're in an open cut block and it's now or never sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about calling and scent. Do you guys buy in? Like, Aaron, are you going with buying like deer urine to pour on? Is that something you've tried before?
I mean, I certainly tried it before, but
no success.
Never really.
No.
To be honest, it's never really worked for me.
Yeah, there was mixed reviews online whether that was like the best way to do it or not.
I think if you're in a tree stand and you're watching a trail, and you can have you can put something there that might stop the deer, to stop it so you can get a shot at it. But I don't feel like it's luring it in from miles around.
No, I totally agree on that. Yeah.
I've seen it work in Saskatchewan. And rightly or wrongly, some people don't do this in predator country, but I put it on my boots.
Okay.
Listen, I do all this sort of stuff. In elk season, boy, I'm telling you, you don't want to be within 10 yards of me because I'm covered in it. And one of these days, I might get gobbled up, but God damn it, I'm having fun. I've seen that work. It's a matter of if something's going to circle you and get your wind, with all the best scent control in the world, with all the best lures and scent cover and all that stuff, and now elk's going to smell you, a deer's going to smell you. It's just going to give you that millisecond, half a second, whatever, before it figures it out. And but you've got the drop on it. It's just one of those things that gives you that extra little tiny edge. Now,
right. Yeah. So I'd put the doe and heat on my boots, hey? and I walked this trail. I was going to sit on top of a hill, a bluff. And so I'm walking through the tall grass, get up on the hill. You know, an hour later, this muley buck comes, and he's crossing my trail, nose down. He hit my doe and heat, and he switched 90-degree angle. He came straight up to me.
Yeah.
Only I had a whitetail tag, so I couldn't shoot him. But it was like, oh, bingo, like this worked. It dialed him right in. So, yeah.
I was going to say
awesome.
something sort of circling back to the scent technology and the ozonics, sort of just reminded me when you were talking. One of the bow hunting magazines that I subscribe to, they did a little study because they're like, can't we sort of figure out, like, with a little bit more, like, just it's just not people stories, but there's a little bit more science to it.
Yep.
And so they had, like, I can't remember, it was something like 16 big cardboard boxes, and then they put a hunter in there with just the spray on stuff, right?
Okay.
And they got a dog, and so they give the dog the scent of the hunter, and it took them like 10 seconds to find the guy. He sniffed all the boxes and found the guy right away. And then they did another guy who had more scent control, so the shower, the scent lock, the spray down, and it took him 20 seconds. So it was like 10 seconds more.
Yeah.
And then they did all that stuff, and they added an ozonics in there, and it was a minute. So he had to go by, the dog had to go through the boxes a couple of times.
There's a clear advantage there to
Yeah,
using
so
that
it's
system.
like what you said.
Yeah.
You get, you buying a little bit of time, right? It's not like you're sitting there and there's an animal downwind of you and it's never going to smell you.
Yeah.
But if you, especially when you're bow hunting, if you can get that little extra
Absolutely.
time close in, it's worth the $500.
Oh, please step ahead
for
one.
those things.
Yeah, $500 for one. They get that deer one branch ahead so that it clears that shot.
Exactly. Well, I thought that was cool, right? Because
Yeah.
it was like, that makes sense to you. You know, they're using a dog. Dogs are friggin' amazing.
And that's tangible. Yeah, it's proof. Like you can see that.
Yeah.
It's something a customer could see and be like, oh wow, this is an actual quality product
Yeah.
too. All right, I'm willing to be sponsored by Ozona.
That's right. If you're listening, Wilderness Wavelength.
Right.
Aaron was the one talking about it.
Yes, yeah.
Is it expensive? Like when you get into those onyx?
Well, I think they're around $600 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Any of the good stuff.
And then
Like
you
any
have to
fun.
buy a couple batteries, and the batteries are like $150
Really?
each. So you're looking like about $1,000 somewhere in
grand,
there to get a
yeah.
couple of batteries plus the one that comes with it.
Huh.
Yeah.
So as far as blinds, I'm curious what you guys think. I bought one of these ghost blinds. Have you heard of them?
Oh yeah,
I've seen your
yeah.
pictures.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
They're nuts.
What's
They
the
are
ghost
nuts. They're a mere technology. So the blind folds out, and it reflects the earth. So you can literally set up in a stubble field. You need no cover.
Yeah.
And you will look like a stubble
as
field.
long as it's not windy.
As long as it's not windy. And I always worried about, well, what about reflection from sun? But really, it's bent down, so you'll never get sunlight on it, but you'll get shadow. But I'll tell you, it's so effective. I was on a cut line right in the middle, because sometimes you're on a cut line, you're like, I can't see down the damn thing.
Yeah.
With the ghost blind, you can set up right in the middle of the grass on the cut line and get a 400-yard view, right?
Yeah.
And I had this herd of elk came out, and they're feeding right around me. And then the wind started swirling, and the cows suddenly just like stomping, and they're looking around because they winded me.
Yeah.
Still couldn't see me. And then they freaked out and started sprinting. They almost ran over my blind. Like I had to jump up and be like, whoa, I'm right here. So like it really makes you disappear.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
It's not really a blind though, right? It's like it doesn't cover you. Your head isn't covered.
you can get different heights. So turkey hunters will get a lower one.
Won't keep the rain out.
No, and I got a higher one because I'm tall, so I'll sit, and then I got my shooting stick and all that. The challenge I've found, again, the setup is a bit time consuming. You're making noise. You got to stake it down because of the wind. Now you've spent 5-10 minutes making a bit of a ruckus. And then I'm in farmland, the thing would be pure magic because you could set up in the alfalfa field.
Yeah.
But here you can sit on the cut line. You're like 4 hours, 5 hours tick by. And it's like, why would the deer come on this cut line and not the other 300 that I passed on the way here, right? So yeah, those are the challenges.
I like that. Is it expensive? Ghost blind?
Well, what is expensive when it comes to hunting, Joe? It's an investment.
Yeah, we talked about this on a couple episodes ago, that you might not be saving a bunch of money with the meat, but
Talk expensive. How many of us have Sitka gear?
I had mine donated due to hard work and dedication, and I'm very thankful.
It's the best gear, right? It's like climbing Arcteryx.
Yeah, we had that discussion. I'm not buying expensive golf clubs or a country club.
Right.
When you said $1,000, I was like, immediately went to my head for grown men, adults, what they do with their adult money. I was like, dude, some guy at the golf course convinced himself he needed a $980 driver because he thought he'd hit that golf ball an extra 10 yards, right?
Yeah.
So
There's always ways to justify.
Oh, you can justify about anything. Yeah, that's for sure.
Another super popular hunting strategy: driving, just driving around.
There is techniques to that, and I've got buddies that are road hunting champions.
Yeah.
And
what's the technique?
It is
Cover a lot of ground.
Burn a lot of fuel. There's like I know the old gaffers around here that know the area, that know the travel of the deer, the elk, the moose, and whatnot. They know what road to be on. They know what days to be on the road.
And the time of day.
And the time of day, and they know how many, and they'll drive us. You'll see a stretch of road, and they'll travel that stretch of road, that 3 kilometers 15 times, and they just do.
Yeah.
Now some guys can't help it, and you can't blame the old fella for doing that. Now there's a lot of young fellas driving around out there, and yeah. Anyways, I could rant and rave about that. I think sometimes I'm jealous because I'd curse and swear about this. They'll come home, oh, just shot a 10-point.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, where'd you get that? Right behind the shoulder, or out the truck window.
Oh,
It's like, oh, you're just sore, and I'm like, well, yeah, because yeah.
That's not, to me, it's just not a very satisfying way of canceling a tag. Like, I really enjoy the whole, like, finding a place for me to put a tree stand or to hunt, and then putting in the hours and the time, and then it all comes together, and you make a good shot, and that's satisfying.
That's the whole point for me is to have that it's a journey. The whole thing's a journey, and when it all comes to fruition and the hard work and dedication, and you're like, yeah, that was awesome. That was really awesome. Yeah. And then now, if I was driving around, I needed meat in the freezer, I'd be like, okay, we're going right here at about an hour before dark. If I had to fill a tag we were hard up, but
yeah, I would agree. To me, it's the least noble way. Have I done it? Heck yeah.
Yeah.
But you know,
a 160 walks out down a cut line, and you're driving by, and you're like,
yeah,
well,
Well,
I guess I'm pulling over, like.
The other thing is I was able to take, last year we took my 3-year-old grandson along, and we shot a deer. And there's no way I could have taken him stealth hunting or sitting in a tree stand. But he got in on that experience. He was just ecstatic, right? So, or if you're...
My son
if
was
you're
involved in his
82
first
years
year.
old, like, are you still going to be able to climb those ladders, right? So... We tend to really turn our noses up at road hunters, but there's a place and time.
Yeah.
The other thing is
young kids involved, 100%.
And like Aaron, I've talked to you about this before. Like, because the way you hunt, you get almost no competition. So let the road hunters have the road. You get out there on your tree stands, and you're in your own private paradise, right?
Yeah. For sure.
I was out last weekend, and it was so busy with road hunting. It was insane. So my buddy and I, we said, you know, we're going to start just stealth hunting. We're going to walk some hills. We're going to rattle.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's what I'm doing. I guess I had no idea. I've been stealth hunting this whole
stealther,
time. I'm listening to you guys. I'm like, okay, so what is he going to talk about? What is this thing? Okay. Sounds like what I'm doing. Well, because that's all I do is I cruise. I'll find, I know, habitual habitat where deer are cruising from bed, feed, and water. And I love a south-facing slope with a little spring here and there with some heavy transition with greens. And I'll run ridges. And, yeah, I rattle and grunt. I do a simple setup, represent a doe, represent a buck tending it, and then represent a confrontation between the tending buck. And I've had everything from 4 points to really good quality deer. Now, I've shot some nice deer. like absolutely. But I haven't shot one that's made me like stop and get all quivery and have a beat and be like, I did it, Dad.
Have you guys shot?
Every one I shoot is like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Exactly.
My heart gets up for every one of them. Don't get me wrong, but I like there's been some that I'm like, Matthew, you could have held out. It's only November 2nd.
Right.
You know what? I want to say something about road hunting. One of the best things, like I loved road hunting when my kids were young, was for grouse.
Oh, absolutely.
That is the way to hunt grouse.
Yeah.
You just travel.
You don't have to go get the bird anymore. You'd be like, go get it.
Yeah, and you're also not dragging your deer 2.5 kilometers
Isn't that
up a
great?
valley, right?
I'm not there. Well,
That's true.
my son, he helped me drag it, but wasn't too far. We got the truck to it, but he's coming up and towards the end of November here. So I'm looking forward to that. Get out with him and his grandfather. And the last week of November is so easy to rattle them around here. It's like, if you could just cut a buck track, go out in the morning and cut a buck track, and even to half think about it and get the wind, you can go out and sit down and call that deer in so easy. Like you just.
Or if the snow is crunchy, it's not a curse like a lot of people think it is. That's actually plays in your favor. You make that buck fight in the crunchy snow and start moving, stuff will come in. I've had better luck in crunchy snow than I have in anything else.
You can convince them that there's something going on.
And doe's running right up to me. I had a doe run right up to me rattling, and she's staring at me like pretty much from here to the door. And I'm like, it's me, I'm a human. Yeah. And she was still like, where are these bucks? You know, like it couldn't have been you, right? So when it works well, it works well.
I got a question about you're still hunting. Do you, when you're going out and you're seeing a good spot and you think you're going to set up, do you set up to give yourself... say you're giving yourself a big open area, or do you set yourself up to force these bucks to run into you so you have that max 50 yards? Like, because I know if you've got too much distance, those deer are gonna pin you. Like, just they've got you. So the way I do it is I force myself into a tight open spot, so they have to come in. I can hear them and I can see the odd foot coming, and they've almost got to come in and like look me in the eye, because all my last 5 bucks have been shot within 35, 40 yards. They just run right in, they stomp, snort, and pow.
Yeah.
And they're all like, all my shots have been chest frontals, not too much from.
That's a really key question, because I did it wrong for a long time, and I have buddies who say, I've rattled, it never worked. I'm like, where are you rattling? They're like, I walked in this cut block. I rattled all afternoon. I was like, you were in a cut block and you expected a deer to come out of cover and run like 100 yards towards you?
They should see something, right?
No, so the hills with poplars, you get a mature poplar stand, you can see 100, 200 yards in some of those. Now, move through the trees. The deer aren't expecting a hunter in there at all. They're in cover. They think they're in cover. You're rattling, making noise. That's where you want to be rattling, not in a massive cut block trying to coax this thing into an open spot. It can happen. I've rattled a young buck once across a pretty big cut line, but that's the exception, not the rule. Yeah. Oh yeah, and He spotted me, and I pick up my rifle, and he ran off. I was like, well, I got nothing to lose, so I rattled again. He stopped and started coming towards me again, and he ended up in my freezer. So sometimes, even if they see you, they'll come around a second time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had just a small forkhorn come in and stand beside me and lick his nose and like just very questioned and like, what are you? And you kind of like shoot off. Yeah, without making much of a ruckus, because other than that, he's pinning you. Yeah, that's very cool. All right, good stuff.
Aaron, I got one more question too about the blinds, because I had this on here. When you're showing up for a blind, are you going before dark, like during dark?
Are you talking about blind or tree stand?
Like tree stand, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always in there. Like
first thing in the morning.
I'm like in the tree stand and settled 45 minutes before legal light.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's with a shit ton of camera equipment.
Yeah.
I'm packing along with me as well.
Yeah.
Right. So it's dedication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To do that.
Do you get winded? Because I've done that. You're walking in the dark, you get the old. You're like, ah.
Shut the fuck. Yeah.
Yep. Not all the time, but absolutely, it's frustrating. But
yeah, it happens.
It happens.
Stalking is another thing where It's very similar to a still or stealth hunting, but you're pretty much just tracking an animal the whole time. Like you're following tracks.
It's how I hunt my whitetail.
Yeah.
I call it throwing darts at dartboards, but if an area that I was hunted maybe you saw a blood trail coming out of it and there was pressure in there and you don't want to hunt that spot, I'll just go around and I'll find that deer, and that's exactly what I do. I look at the track, recognize, well, if it was yesterday's, if I'm desperate, maybe I'll go after it. But you're looking for a fresh track, and I'll walk in and I slowly work my way in. I pull my phone out, look at the land, figure where are they going to be, where are they going to be traveling. You kind of have to take a guesstimated, educated decision on what do you think? Is he going up? Is he going down? Has he got a doe with him? Does the doe have a fawn? Is it going to, what's kind of going on in the area? And then, I've shot a lot of bucks like that.
So we were talking about stalking, though. Like in my mind, that's like you see something,
spot,
and then you
spot and
stalk
stalk.
it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So have you guys ever hunted caribou?
No.
Like they're the perfect animal for bow hunting and stalking, because like with a rifle, it's not quite as challenging, but it's open terrain, right? It's in, you're above the tree line, and it's the coolest thing ever. You like crawling along with your bow in front of you and, taking an hour to get close.
Right.
So I've done that a couple of times, and then pronghorn antelope is the other one that stalking is.
That's
basically that's the way you do it, because they're out in the prairie, so.
And they could see like an eagle. Their
Yeah, no
eyesight's
kidding.
incredible.
So like the eye hunter app or whatever app you're using, I shot an antelope like in 2015 where I marked it by looking at it, and then I looked at my map and I saw the coulees, right? Because there's all these coulees that you can walk down, and then you can poke your head up over the top of the coulee, and that's literally, I saw it. I went into a coulee, went all the way around until I marked that animal. Like I'm like put a mark there, and then I went all the way around, and then lifted and did it a couple times, got close enough, and
That's awesome.
yeah,
That would be an experience. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. Pronghorns are amazing things to hunt. Like they're the
Well, you see guys have
coolest animals ever.
difficulties with rifles trying to get a pronghorn. It's like sometimes these animals are spotting them and they can't break that, even the 300-yard mark. Or
When I first went
high
down there,
winds,
I
hard
thought it was
shooting.
going to be easy.
Yeah.
I was more excited about bow hunting for mule deer, because mule deer were open. So I'm like, I'll get an antelope the first day, and then I'll bow hunt for 6 days for muley. It was like 4 days later, a couple of missed shots.
High winds,
My effective range of the rifle and a bow is almost exactly the same.
Nice.
But if you ever get a chance, man, they're the coolest ever.
Yeah, no, I believe it. I find spot and stalk gets my heart beating like nothing else. Like rattling, everything else happens so quick that
they're on you.
Your adrenaline doesn't really get time to really amp up, but you see the buck of your dreams, or even a doe at 700 yards, and you're making the move in, and by the time you're in shooting range, your heart's just like, it's like the cat going for the bird in the backyard.
Absolutely,
right?
whatever your quarry is. If I'm sneaking up on a chicken, if I'm involved in something, and my end goal is to get that thing, it doesn't matter what is going on. I'm jazzed.
Yeah.
I'm like.
Yeah, I can hear my heart pounding in my chest.
I remember the first time my son, ever hunting with him, where he was like in a position where he could shoot an animal like a whitetail. He was 12 years old, and he's like, "Dad, like my stomach has butterflies in it." Like he didn't know what it was, right? But he's like, "Something's going on here."
Yeah.
That's an exciting time.
Do you think that's just primal? Like everybody has that, even if you don't want to shoot something. I think people still have that when you're getting close.
Yeah.
I had a partner of mine 25 years ago, didn't want to see anything shot, didn't but came along with a couple hunts, and we got close a couple times, and she had all those same reactions, right? All the the pounding of the heart and all of that, the adrenaline rush, and she didn't want to see anything get shot, but I think it's just somewhere deep in your brain.
Our instinctual prey drive. It's every animal with a couple pointy teeth in their mouth. We have that prey drive, right? So I could see, you nailed it with very primal, basic instincts that we need that drive.
I was
very cool.
I was stealth hunting with my daughter years ago. She was just a teenager, and we were going over these hills, and I see her. She was a very good hunter, still is, very good shot. And I see her raise her rifle, and I'm like, oh, she's onto something. And then I watch her with a 30-06, and she's just unloading her bullets into the snow. I'm like, what is going on? And then she's reaching down, fishing for her bullets in the snow, trying to load them up, and then nothing. And she comes back, and I was, what was that? She goes, Dad, it was the biggest buck I ever saw in my life. I just lost my mind. Like, once that buck fever hits, there's nothing like it, right? Yeah.
When you're that jacked, like Scott, you mentioned, like you're tracking someone for 700 yards. Is there, when you're in shooting range, how do you get calm enough to pull the trigger and make sure you're level? And
well, we talked about pretending to fall asleep thing. Mm-hmm. I try to do that when I'm shooting. It's something over the years I try to fake that. Just relax. There's nothing to it. Just get in that Zen mode. Because if you're amped up, you're gonna shoot.
Yeah, you're wobbling and you're
You almost have to tell yourself this doesn't matter. Just relax, line it up. Do it right, and that's when you'll shoot the best. Yeah.
Matthew, you said you got like a ADHD, like you're constantly going. Do you find that an issue then? Like you get too excited?
No, in that moment, that's the best type of medication I've ever had in my life. I'm calm, cool, collected, and if there's a crisis, I'm in like crisis mode kicks in. Even that shot of adrenaline, I don't find. I don't want to say it. Yeah, elk hunting, I've got the shakes doing everything, but 90% of the time it works every time. Like every once in a while, if it's you're really into it and your heart's pounding. And, I've had to have that hard, deep breath and draw back on the bow and come up and realize, okay, this is happening. And it's a split-second pep talk to yourself when you're like, okay, shit's getting real. Okay, full draw, the animal's going to come out. The playbook's going through your head, and it's like you're hoping it's going to play out. He's going to step out, and he's going to give me that.
I've never not had that happen to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm like shaking every single time I've ever shot any animal. I find it easier, funnily enough, to deal with bow hunting because the animal is so close to you. When you're looking through your sight, you don't actually get the same picture that you do with a scope. When you're looking through your sight and you're seeing
it's all
it go all the way along with the bow, it doesn't, because you're so close. You're looking through a little peep sight. It doesn't affect my shooting as much. Where with a rifle, I definitely notice it more. With the rifle.
Oh yeah, everything would be magnified with
the scope. But I've never I've never shot an animal where
you're calm.
I was calm. I've had the pep talks. I'll tell you that right now. I've had the pep talks with myself, but it's never worked.
Yeah. Have you guys ever used decoys?
Yes, I've got decoys while I was predator hunting, and I've used my archery target whitetail hunting. I've had multiple bucks come in and charge my archery target and knock it down and send the fake antlers flying.
Wow.
Yeah. I won't. No, but you're lugging a decoy around.
Yeah. I've got those pop out. What's the
the Montana decoys?
Montana. Yeah.
Don't leave them out overnight. I left a cow decoy out overnight in a spot where I was going to hunt the next morning. I just left. I won't say I left it out. I forgot it, and came out the next day, and there was bull elk tracks and side hills all tore up, and that $120 decoy was nowhere to be seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what's a Montana decoy then?
They pop out, so they're really tiny, and they spring out, and they're an actual photograph.
Okay.
And you can get a couple different ones. The danger I find, like it's one thing on private land where you know that you're safe. I'm always worried. I've set them up on cut lines and thought, man, if some guy's coming the other way, they're going to start unloading shots, and you don't want to be anywhere near that.
I know the cow elk one, they tell, even though the ones with the heads on them don't work as well, because if they're like a bull elk comes out or a cow comes out and they just see a stationary, but if they're looking at a butt, that elk's grazing or whatever. That was a little tidbit I had heard, and that's but yeah, the dangers. It wouldn't want to be inside of a road. Wouldn't want to be on a poplar right away. Wouldn't want to have it on your back. You'd have that thing rolled up and in your backpack, covered up with something like that. You'd have to be very careful. You'd get your butt shot that way for sure.
They work. Like my buddy and I were setting up one of those 3D decoys, walking into a field, and there were deer in the field, and we're like, we're not ready for this game. We're carrying this decoy in. And we could walk almost up to these deer with the decoy. They were so puzzled by it. And I know some bow hunters have used them. They've made like a decoy cutout and shot their bow through them, even using them for mountain goats and bighorn sheep. But again, that's a dangerous game to play because, you know, some guy's going to be there at 600 yards and he's going to see a bighorn sheep. Right?
Well, they have the bow covered ones, the ones that act like a shield on the front. And yeah, man. In public land, sneaking through somewhere where there's actually deer and another hunter, and you think you're acting like a big buck, and you're going to come try to fight them, or I don't know. That's risky.
It is, yeah.
Unnecessary risk that private land, you know where you're at. But anyways,
yeah.
I don't know if I told this story last time, but I had a whitetail decoy when I lived in town, and I just put it like on behind. Thompson Lake there, just like I lived back there, and I put it like 50 yards off of my house, and I would shoot my bow, and I came up there one day and it was like in pieces. A cougar had attacked it, bit it everywhere, bit its neck, all clawed, all this, like just destroyed it. It was like 30 pieces.
I had a bear at hunting camp come in and drag my buck off. I think it was just a foam, or he might have thought, because we had it set out on the side trail, and we were shooting our bows at it and stuff. And I get up in the morning, where the hell's the decoy? And they're shooting block, and that black bear lugged the damn thing off. It didn't hurt it too bad, but they work. The bucks, for trying to get my son, not so much for me. I moved too much to use that, but for my 12-year-old at the time, that was perfect opportunity. And like, of course, little 3x3 come running in, and he stare at it a while, and then it would take him, it might come in right away, but it might take him a few minutes to get the courage up, and walking sideways, squaring himself up, and attack it and knock it over. And I'm like, shoot it, Brennan, shoot it. Oh no. And then seeing my son experience his first adrenaline dumps, priceless. Like, just absolutely. And it's the after effect. It's the come down when they're really full body shaking, and they're like, I don't know, I can't stop shaking, Dad. I don't.
I get the same feeling whether I'm shooting it or whether I'm filming it. Yeah, like I have the same adrenaline rush going through me. It's no difference.
Helping somebody shoot something for me. I helped with a veterans organization for quite a few years, 3 or 4 years, and helping somebody else get through the experience, and maybe it's their first animal or maybe it's not, but it's very visceral. It's a great experience.
One of the coolest uses of a decoy I ever saw was hunting pronghorn down in southern Alberta, and they were using cow decoys. So Montana's, they make them just like a cow. And where we were hunting down there's cows everywhere.
Oh,
and
like a real cow,
like a cow decoy. Yeah, because there's cows everywhere. And so they were just like literally walking behind a cow decoy. And they were like, "Oh, this is the easiest thing ever. You can just walk right up to them, and you don't have to worry about anyone
getting
shooting
shot." Hopefully, cattle rustlers. Yeah.
Wow.
That would, something that they would just be like, "Oh, it's a cow."
Yeah.
Aaron, you mentioned iHunter app.
Yeah.
I'm using that one too. That seems good. You guys into the iHunter app then too?
Years and years. I'm an old GI hunter. I think since, I don't know, it's been 10 years probably.
Yeah, I've had it for that long, like a long time.
Yeah.
When it had basically no features.
I use Avenza and the map you've got on your wall there, so I know every area in the forest management area. So
I use Gaia too, right? Like that's the one I use for paddling, and so
Fat Map. Like for oddball ones or oddball one. But now iHunter has the 3D function available on it. But before that, Fat Map 3D was fantastic for topograph. Like spin it flat, and so that way, like hunting Rock Lake or anywhere like where you're super, you don't want to drop down. We're like, oh, well, this little bench, 150 yards, does it taper off? And do we have to side hill it? Or like that sort of stuff was valuable for me. But now iHunter has it, so I don't even have Fat Map anymore.
The nice thing about iHunter is you can buy county maps. So you can have information about private land owners, especially when you're hunting pronghorn down south. Like it's all basically private land.
Right.
So it would be silly not to have something like that, really. Yeah.
Are you saving your info on like iHunter, like you said, when you're hunting the tree stands?
Well, I'm saving my I'm dropping pins at my tree stands.
Yeah. But like I saw a buck here today. Like, where are you writing that down? I just got a journal for.
I have an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Yeah.
Scott, you mentioned that too. Every animal I've ever shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You mentioned that every time you spot a deer or something, like every hunt you're writing what you saw.
I journal. It's not very long. I'll just journal what zone, where I was, what we saw.
Okay.
And I don't know why. It's a bit of a religion for me. But if I find some really cool spots, I'll drop a pin on Avenza.
Okay.
Be like, this is a hot elk zone, and I'll file this for another year when I get drawn, sort of thing.
George, I'll show you here. Look at my phone for a second.
So this is iHunter you got up, yeah.
So all these pins.
There's quite a few pins there, yeah. Wow.
Just wait. So that's just the western slope.
Oh, man.
Or the eastern slope.
So is this every animal you've ever seen?
Yeah. And just not every animal I've ever seen, but any major feature.
Yeah.
Like, and then has all your animal designations: pit, elk, moose, crossroad, water, predators. But like, so just for that one area, there's 152 just in that one.
Yeah.
And it's just
little section.
It's just pin. I love it. It's a great app.
Yeah.
Fantastic app. It really is.
For our listeners, he's selling that to the highest bidder.
Exactly.
Guys, I'm telling you, well, like a follow like Aaron, you like to have that knowledge where you can be like, I'm not even going to say the road because it's from kilometer 9. You'll know from kilometer 9 to kilometer 48 on a road heading towards Edson. Like that whole section of road, like from that slope right from the river valley at the bottom right up to the top to the private land. Every stitch of her. I know where the springs are. I know where the elk run. I know where the beds are. I know where the deer are. I know where guys have their mineral licks. I know guys have their stands. I know because I've walked it. Like I spent years just going up and down and up and down and not like so.
Same here. Yeah.
I know where you're talking about.
Yeah. Did you figure it out?
Hills and poplars, man. Hills and poplars.
Exactly, and that's what that whole region is.
That's what that whole region is. Yeah.
Huh. And some of the worst blowdown you've ever seen since Christ was a cowboy. Like that's why they're logging it. There's going to be some major changes in that whole region because I didn't think they were going to hit the valley, like the valley side, with that old. I call it Jurassic Park because there's old growth that's never been cut. Mm-hmm. Like you go down there and there's 36-inch trees that are falling down 200 years ago type of thing, and then the trees coming up and there's 5 feet of moss, and it's very cool.
Yeah. Aaron's a forester. He can tell you all about that.
I know a lot about the forest around here.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. There's not much of that stuff. Like I get down in there. Well, yeah, anyways, I got to keep my mouth. I'm going to let some stuff slide.
But on that note, like I'm always looking, here's the deal. It's always changing, right? So you got your honey hole, and it's only good for a certain amount of time till it grows up.
For sure.
So you're always looking for that next place. And I, like you guys, I probably like the cut blocks that are sort of 3 to 5 years old. Yep. The clovers are coming up, the good forage, and then suddenly the cover's too thick. You can't see what's in there, right?
But there's nothing to eat anymore for those animals. Like by about 15 to 20 years, those cut blocks, they're just like growing pine and spruce trees. They don't have the groceries, as my friend Rick calls it.
Yeah,
totally. That the animals like. So I mean, I've gone through the life of lots of cut blocks where it was really good.
How's your feeling on glyphosate spraying? That's another podcast, George. If you want, that's wow. Yeah, you could get real passionate about what I just brought up. Yeah.
I think the one thing we should talk about hunting techniques is after the trigger squeezed, because that's a whole other ball game, right? Mm-hmm.
Key targets.
We always like to think, one shot the deer's down or the elk or whatever, but what's your process after the trigger's squeezed?
So you mean like before you find the animal dead? You're not talking about processing it and getting it out. You're
Exactly.
talking about the shot. And
You made the shot. Now what?
So with bow hunting, that's almost always a thing, right? Because it's very rare that you shoot an animal with a bow and it just falls over.
Sure.
So you spine shoot a few and that happens, but
bleeding
for the
it out,
most part, you're having to go to where you thought you shot it. And like with me, the beauty of doing things on camera is I have the ability to quickly look. Also, the thing is when I'm hunting with a bow, I have a what's called like a lighted knock, so you can see your arrow travel. Before they had those things, you had no idea where your arrow was going. It goes too fast for you to see it. But when it's lighted, you get an idea of where you hit it. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of times where you're like, I think I hit it here. And then you look at the footage, and because you're just looking at it on a camera, you can't really tell. But then you bring it home, you put it on a computer, you do it frame by frame, and it's like it's not where you originally it. It's so different. Like it's very hard to tell in real time where you hit an animal. Like with a bow, but even like with a gun, it's really hard to tell unless you spine shoot them, right? But then with a bow, you're almost always having to go find that spot. You look for your arrow because your arrow almost always goes through the animal. You look at the color of the blood. Is it dark? That's back, liver. Is it?
Smell it.
We'll smell it for sure.
Green's
if you
bad.
Get that far back, you don't usually have any blood on it. You just have like matter in it. But if yours bubbles, it's bright red. You've got a lung shot. You know it's going to be pretty close. And it's like, how long do you wait after you shot it before you go and do that sort of stuff? For me, with a bow, like you can usually hear the animal go down if you've shot it in the heart and lungs, right?
Double lung or that
usually.
animal's
So
done.
I'm not waiting like, half an hour. Like by the time I pack all my crap up and get down out of the tree, half an hour has gone by anyway. But I shot a moose, I think it was 2016, 17, and I shot it back. And I shot it back and it was a little bit quartering toward me, and I shot it back, and we sat in that tree stand for like almost to dark. So it's like 3.5 hours before we even got down.
Wow.
And then found a little bit of blood, but that was it.
So you knew you'd shot it back just after it released.
Because I had a lighted knock and I filmed it.
Okay.
So I knew where I'd hit it. But we just found a little bit of blood here and there, and then nothing. And then just sort of going really slowly, and saw like this sapling move 50, and I'm like, that doesn't look right. And the thing was, I snuck right up there, and it was too sick to stand up, and I put another arrow in it.
Right.
But if I hadn't done that, if I had just got down from the tree right away, I'd never recover that.
No, you'd have jumped it and
2
it'd have run until it dropped dead. Yeah.
And it was only 150 meters from the tree stand as the crow flies. So. There's a lot that goes into a lot of experience, especially, the longer you've been at it, the more situations you've seen.
Totally.
And, the more knowledge you have about sort of how to do that.
I've been on my hands and knees in the pouring rain looking for drops of blood, or, some guys will do flagging tape or toilet paper and trail it. But the one rule I've always had with my kids is you always check. Even if you thought you missed that thing, it's like, that was a bad shot. I can't tell you how many times we've gone and we found a dead animal.
Yeah.
Even what you thought was a bad shot.
Deer, I've seen them deer jump and run, and the guy not even so much as jump, they just run, and I missed it, and nope, you good shot? Yeah, I'm a good shot. Is your rifle zeroed? Yeah, it's zeroed. Well, and then you hit it. Let's go find it. And then you hit a high lung shot, and they get the opportunity to take off and run, and there wasn't tragic expansion on that bullet or something happened, and that deer run 80, 100 yards without a drop of blood, and you're coming through the thicket. It's like, there's your deer. Meanwhile, some you can figure it fall out real quick when they don't go and check. I missed it.
Yeah.
I find tracking an animal that's been shot with a bullet is harder than with an arrow. Because it's a little tiny hole. often with the bullet, it doesn't go all the way through. So you only have one hole. And you've got, like, if there's no snow on the ground,
There you go.
it's
It's
bloody
tough.
hard with a rifle.
It's considered hit and dead until proven otherwise. Like if I'm hunting, like, you know, and I've missed a couple deer where I've spent the next few hours trying to prove to myself that, okay, I missed this deer. Like there wasn't any, you're on its tracks and you don't see where it's stumbling or kicking leaves over. It's not walking sick, or you haven't found blood.
And the way they react to the shot, right? Like a week ago, my daughter shot a buck, and then we went looking for it, and I knew she hit. Tail down, hunched, like it was just classic, sort of buckled.
The old haunchy squat.
Yeah, and the tail down is usually a great indicator. Although I've seen tail up, I've seen it all. But she's like, Dad, I think I said, you hit it. She goes, how do you know? I said, it hunched, tail down, like it was definite hit. And we were headed the total wrong way, and I was like, let's go right back to where it started from. Slow down. We see the stumbling footprints, and it ended up somewhere completely different. With little skiff of snow, had we not had that, we'd never have found that buck. To go back to what Aaron was saying, sometimes with the rifle, you don't get that clear blood trail, right?
Yeah.
Last couple of years ago, my brother shot a moose out by Catamount. Made a beautiful shot, like 300 and something yards. Saw it like kick up, knew he'd hit it, and it ran into like one of those willow flats, like that goes on for kilometers. And went in there where you can even, like, it's like, like you just, like, you can hardly do anything. No blood. Like, we wandered around in there for, like, not exaggerating, a couple of hours, and where you could only see like 10 feet in front of you. And we ended up coming back to where he knew he hit the animal, where it went in, and we ended up finding it like 50 yards from where he hit it. And we've been everywhere.
I have this story. I'm not, embarrassed about it because adrenaline was definitely pumping on this occasion because I wasn't hunting. Like, I didn't go out with hunting in mind. I bow hunted all season hard, had my chances, didn't get one. I had it in my mind. I was satisfied with my elk hunting. You know, I wasn't going to rifle hunt. Rifle opening morning. I got off night shift, and I'm like, well, I'll take the dog for a walk. I go out to my camp location, and I'm like, what are you doing? Take your rifle with you. So I take my rifle with me, and I'm sitting at camp, and I'm drinking my Timmy's, and I shoot this. Anyways, I'm calling. This whole story I think I told you on our last one. I don't know. And end up calling in this bull elk. Put the dog in the truck, and I run up the hill, and I'm in my black jogging pants and a long sleeve red shirt with my rifle basically in my pajamas, and run up the hill and shoot this bull elk 90 yards. Pull up, stepped out behind a tree, boom, nice 5x5. And I make this shot and it stumbles and it drops down, its front end drops, and I knew it saw the bullet hit it, just top of the heart.
Yeah.
Anyways, and it got up and I reloaded, and it was just stepping off, and I didn't shoot it again because I thought I'd hit it great. Like, confident enough in my shot that it's just going to drop dead up on top of the hill. So by the time I'm like, I should shoot it again, it's too late. I would have hit it in the butt. So I stand down there 20 minutes and I wait, and I go up on the hill, and I get up there and there's nothing. And I'm looking, and now I'm shaking because the adrenaline's like, I had an adrenaline shot, it's wearing off. I'm shaking and I'm looking and I'm starting to panic. Like, oh no, I let this thing get away from me. You should have shot it again. Follow-up shot, should have shot it. I walk down the trail 40 yards, thrash.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and now I'm really cursing myself, you stupid. I'm like, my day's ruined. I've got a wounded animal. You're a stupid butthead. You should have just follow-up shot with no questions. It got up, shoot it again. Big animal like that. Yeah. So now I've panicked and I can't find it. I'm not finding blood. I call my hunting partner. He's like, what are you doing? Get down off the hill. Stop being silly. I'm trying to keep my language clean. He's like, why did you go up there? Like, I'll come back. I'll come get you. So we're standing there and we're talking it over, and he's like, how long's it been? I'm like, it's been like an hour and 40 minutes. He's like, okay, I'm going to go up. Where was the bull? So he walks up, and I'm like, he's right there. That's where he was standing. He's like, that's where I'm like, okay. So I go up there, and I stand up on top of the log, and he says, so do you want good news or the bad news? I said, what? He's like, your bull's right there. I walk by it. It was, 15 yards, 30 feet. I walked by and a panic because when it had gone up and over the hill out of sight, it literally fell over dead. And all it was stuck up, there was 3 out of the 5 were stuck up over the grass, and I walked right by the thing.
I've done that. I've almost stepped on an animal, like.
But you're in a panic
following
and
the blood
trail.
Like,
Yeah.
you bang into it.
Yeah.
You remind me of a story when I was pronghorn antelope hunting for the very first time, and I made this great stalk, and I shot this really nice antelope, and it fell over just like, and its legs were kicking, and I jumped up, and I'm like, yeah, and I was like dancing around, got up, I'm like, hold on a second, what's going on? I'm like, and then I'm trying to get another, and it just started to run, and I could see it run for like 10 kilometers, like, because it was like slightly uphill, it was just like forever, and I'm like, I hadn't shot anything with a gun for like 20 years, and I just, that was stupid. I should have like waited and seen if it was going to stand up again and not like jump up and start happy dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did that with a black, I've done that with deer too, but did that with a black bear, shot it. My son and I high five, we're walking up to the bear. It gets up and sprints away. Yet it, and we looked till sundown, gave it up for lost. And I almost stepped on it walking back to my truck. It was dead as a doorknob. Heart shot. The thing was able to run 200 yards. The same thing. Just wait, see if it's going to get up, and be ready.
A bear is a creature that, especially if you know it's wounded, they're not to beat because they'll circle you. That's the one thing Dad was an outfitter and bear hunting was our jam. Like one thing I learned about a bear. Now, man, they'll circle you. The second that it knows that you're putting pressure on that thing, it is going to dog you. It's going to flip around. And that thing is probably back there. You're stumbling through the woods like an idiot, and it's sitting back there looking at you, just following you around the woods. I've seen it happen. We've literally walked on our trail, and the blood come back on blood, and you see where it was driving itself in the mud and like packing its wound up. It was high, above in between the front shoulder, below the shoulder and above the elbow. And there was no no bone damage because it was putting weight on it, and not the situation you want to be in.
No, and on that topic, one of the things I'll do is I'll put my rifle away and wait, and then take out the shotgun with 3-inch Magnum buckshot in thick bush, especially if you're after a bear or something, because if something's going to get up, you want a headshot, might be close quarters, and get through the willows. So that saved my bacon.
Do you carry a rifle when you're bow hunting? Yeah, I don't either. Do you carry bear spray? You don't. Now, just the way you said that, you don't. So I don't either. And what are you carrying, Matthew? My bow and a sharp knife. Like, what do you?
But I told a story at the last podcast about being charged by a grizzly bear, like three times to like 10 feet, and not having bear spray, and having my son with me, and feeling like such an idiot.
It's important to have, and I know I put myself in the bad situation all the time.
Yeah.
And I got put off of. I shot a nice buck with my muzzleloader last year. Now it could be coincidence. I found a dead head within a couple kilometers of where it wasn't much of an interaction. More it was I was going to get my deer, and I'm walking up the trail, and I have the tracks. I'm like, the deer's running up the gully. You can see the scuffs in the leaves, and I bring my head up, and I'm eye to eye with a big sow, or what I would have been a big sow, and I'm like, and she actually didn't. She reacted and just kind of bounced off the trail, and I turned around as quick as I was like, pick the head up, and I'm going down, and then the second one come up and over the trail, like up and out of the gully, and it was definitely like a 2-year cub. But
well, you don't want to leave them overnight here, right? So I see a lot of Americans will be like, we arrowed it, we got it in the morning. You do that here, 9 times out of 10, the grizz or coyotes or wolves, something's going to find it. And I've had spoilage too. Like, things can spoil unbelievably fast.
Early season, excuse me. I've had stuff come close to spoiling on me where you're in a mad panic to get the meat off the bone, split it off the bone, and just start getting it in bags and getting it hung up. And it's an actual panic because you're like it's going to be 28 degrees. It's August 28th, and you got an animal down, and it's go time, right?
Yeah.
But leave overnight. The set, you might have animals up on you. You're gonna have animals up on you. The point and proven fact. I went out with my dad. We shot a doe. I needed to fill a tag. I didn't have time to wait for a buck, so I just wanted to shoot a doe.
Never apologize for shooting a doe.
Oh, what did I say? What
meat,
did I? I didn't know. Did I? What did I say?
Well, no, I just when people say, "Oh, I just shot a doe," or "I shot a doe." Like,
Oh, yes,
I'm like,
I understand. Yeah,
that is like a huge accomplishment.
Yes. And with iron sight 30-30 to boot. So there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Quick evening hunt, went out, popped a doe, and there was an announcement on the radio that the gunshots, there was an alert that grizzly bears are coming to gunshots, and be aware that predators. This is probably 10 plus years ago, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. Brennan was just a young fella. Yeah, about that time. And Dad was listening. He's like, "Oh, Matthew, is that really a thing?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Like, around here, like, if you fire off a shot, predators in the area know there's going to be a gut sack there, and it's a free meal, the organs, all that stuff." He's like, "Really?" So later in the day, I shoot that deer, and he's like, "Come on, Matthew, throw that on the truck. We'll just skin that at the house. There ain't no, come on there. What are you doing out there? Hurry up." And I said, "Just come on." I said, "Here, take the 30-30 and sit on the road if you're scared, Dad." I said, "It'll take me 20 minutes to get this processed, so I don't have to lug all this, living in an apartment too, right?" So I'm like, "Keep that stuff out of there." And it wasn't a grizzly, but we came down the hill, and we turned back onto the road, and to this date, I've shot a few wolves, but to the date, it was the largest black wolf I've ever seen in my life. And just long legs and that extra long snout on it. And I ended up shooting a black wolf. My first black wolf out of the 3 was up on that hill in the same spot a couple of years later. But he's like, "I told you, Matthew. I told you. I told you to load that deer. Jeez." And I'm like, "Oh, Dad, it's just a wolf." "Oh, just a wolf." Outfitted. Only thing he's ever seen is a fox and a coyote, not a 110-pound black wolf or 130, more than likely.
I have to say, like, when I'm on Instagram these days, like, the last few years, when somebody posts a picture of a doe that they've shot, I always make a point of making a comment.
Congratulations,
and say, congratulations. And I do the same thing with whitefish. I'm like, every time somebody has a whitefish picture,
Whitefish are great,
good
man.
for you. Like, that's a nice whitefish. Like, I see 1 million bucks on Instagram.
Yeah.
But, like, post some doe pictures, because that's hard too. They deserve some respect. Same with whitefish.
I did. I got a white-tailed doe with my bow that I was super proud of.
Yeah.
And it's funny you said about shooting something with an animal with one arrow and it go down on the spot. I shot a black bear, and it was a problem bear. And every time I couldn't go to my tree stand, she'd come out. I'd toot on my little green whistle, my doe bleat, elastic band call my dad gave me. I'd go, whoo. I'd blow that, and out she'd come. And she'd come out looking for a meal, right? So I got my tag, and same like clockwork, little couple blows on that elastic band doe call, and out it come. And I lined it up, let the arrow fly, and she just dropped out of sight. And I'm like, "Oh, I just one shot a bear." It's Dad, I killed a bear. I killed a bear with one shot. And I'm like putting another arrow in the nock, and I'm like, there's no, and it come alive, and it stood like I spine shot it, so it just up on its front end, and then it ran down the rest of the hill on its front end at my tree stand, and I hit it on the run, and I hit it in the shoulder, and it was right at the base of my tree stand. When it happened, the thing reached back, and it bit the arrow out of its shoulder and broke the arrow. That's no, like on a Bible, that's what he's. And now I've got to load a third shot, and it's down at the base of my tree stand, like trying to get at the ladder, and it's paralyzed, and it's roaring and growling, and I'm shaking like, that was an adrenaline day. And I trying to shoot vertically straight down. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. I've never done anything like that before in my life, so I'm in new waters, and I'm treading quick. So I managed to get one down. I hit her double lung, like great click straight through. And then she did her death moan, and I'm sitting up there and she's doing that and I'm shaking. And that was an experience. Yeah. So yeah, anytime you shoot an animal with a bow and it just drops dead, it's not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've shot a couple of moose, spine shot them, and then made the mistake of trying to finish them off while in a tree stand. Hit a lot of trees.
Yeah.
Especially because you're
Yeah.
shaking now.
You're shaking like crazy. And it's just like climb down, walk up, and put another arrow into it.
Yeah.
We got a question on the podcast this week. We should get into. What's the coolest piece of taxidermy you've ever seen? We got a few responses. You guys got any thoughts on this one?
Jackalope.
The jackalope.
That was something someone sent in. Jackalope.
I'll tell you what it is, but don't judge me for it because I'm not condoning the hunting and killing of this animal. But I saw a shoulder mount of a giraffe.
Oh wow! Yeah.
In Edson.
Wow.
Edson.
Yeah.
That's a strange place for a giraffe to be.
Yeah. Must have been out on an alfalfa field, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was, I mean, I've seen like thousands of bucks and elk and everything, but to see a giraffe shoulder mounted.
Oh, very
pretty,
cool.
pretty-
That would be something like, and that's
cool.
that's
amazing.
an amazing animal. Yeah, it would be. The size would be baffling. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, because
Exactly.
your representation of it, we see always on TV and books, and you don't actually understand the pure volume. I would be.
How do you order a mold for a giraffe? Something similar. Like I'm not a trophy hunter per se. Of course, I love a big buck if I get one. But so I have this really nice buck I shot in Saskatchewan, and I thought, this is worth putting money in. So I found out one of the best taxidermists in the province. I was like, I'm going to pay money for this.
Yeah.
And I took it in. I go in his shop. He's got a full-size rhinoceros he's
Oh
wearing.
my God.
Oh wow!
Yeah, right in the middle of the shop. Like it took up half his shop. And I said, have you ever done one of these? He goes, nope, first one. This thing's really hard. He said, because the hide kept curling. He had to keep it damp to stretch it. And he's, what a job. Again, I'm not
would you
advocating
tan something
shooting
that thick?
rhinoceros, but I don't know the backstory on this, but it was cool to see a full-size rhino in the shop. Yeah.
Morris, previous guest on the podcast, sent
Archibald,
a message. Morris Archibald. He said in Smithers, BC airport, there's a grizzly bear that's huge. It was known as the Hungry Hill Grizzly. I guess it was preying on local cattle along Highway 16, which has a long hill called the Hungry Hill, and the bear's head is 2 feet wide.
So, I mean, do you I'm assuming you guys know, but we have like one of the coolest taxidermy collections in Canada here in Hinton, right?
Yeah.
At the Yellowhead arrow
Fishing-
launchers.
At the yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every species of sheep in the world, like,
Yeah.
it's worth, that collection is like over $1 million.
The sheep and the polar bear. Just
Yeah,
for
the
one
polar bear.
item in itself, the polar bear is
Marco
amazing.
Polo sheep, I bet you they're just as expensive.
Oh, yeah. I had to have the sheep. I'm very ignorant when it comes to sheep, and I
You're
know
spending
hundreds of thousands. Yeah,
to go on a Marco Polo sheep hunt.
that's something. And the heads they have in there, it is something.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like in Hinton, we have it.
Yeah. It's educational. Learn your sheep from
Yeah.
around the world, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, for taxidermy for me, it's not really taxidermy. I was saying earlier, you guys made me stop. So at hunting camp, so I've seen a lot of bears and a lot of different animals and stuff like that. Been to different fishing games, but this one always makes me laugh. There's a guy's probably dead now, but he's a loudmouth from downstate. So Dad always dealt with the guys from down and East Coast, New Jersey, a lot of guys from New York, Pennsylvania, all that sort of stuff. Bear hunters coming up. And every once in a while, there'd be one in the crowd that knew it all, loudmouth, and had the new gear. And imagine going to a hunting camp and paying somebody to take you out for a guided hunt, and then telling the guide he doesn't know what he's doing and he's going to shoot his own bear. Mm-hmm. So this guy had a bald head and then had this little, like a rat tail coming off the back of his head, and that's the only hair he had on his head. And he was so proud of this little rat tail ponytail he had it all braided and everything like that. So they got drinking, and he was going to wanted to make a bet that he was going to get a bear without the help of a guide. And the guys are like, well, you should listen to us. Like, here's the baits that you have. Well, he picked his own bait, and it was one a bear hadn't been to in 3 weeks. So they ended up making this bet that he was going to shoot his own bear, or they were going to cut his ponytail off.
Yeah.
So what they ended up doing, he didn't get his bear, and he did not leave with that ponytail. And they have a turkey claw that's done up on the wall, and they've got it bent up with the middle finger.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got his ponytail hanging off of that turkey claw. And it's at the camp, and it's in the main mess hall, so you have to walk by that turkey tail.
Yeah.
And it's just reminding everybody that you just stay humble at camp.
Right.
You know, we're here. They were there to provide us a service. Let us help you. Anyways, that was the one piece
That's
of
a good
tech.
one.
Yeah,
I like that one.
Yeah.
JD sent in a message, say one of his friends has a full body wolf mount. Thinks it's the coolest mounts he's seen so far.
They're amazing.
Zap said one of my family members' partners, Archie Nesbitt, hosted the Ultimate Shot, and his trophy room is insane. He has something like 70 bow hunting world records, and he's got a big grizzly bear with a caribou and a wolverine scene. So.
Yeah, he's like one of the most famous bow hunters.
Yeah.
There is. Him and Chuck Adams. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What was the gentleman's name?
Archie Nesbitt.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
If you ever buy a bow hunting magazine, like once a year, he's in it. Like,
Wow.
it's very well known.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And Brandon sent in one too. Oh, this one was from Rel, and he mentioned the jackalope. But Brandon sent one in and said, yeah, buddy had a huge wolf jumping off a rock on a wall going up his stairs. He got divorced, though, and his wife and her friends got drunk and smashed it one night.
Oh,
That was like,
have you guys seen on Instagram or Facebook or whatever? It's the guys out at the hunt camp, and it's a nice hunt camp. Like, they got paneling on the walls. That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Anyways, buddy's in the bathroom, and he's taking a leak, and there's the ass end of a white-tailed deer, and the tail's up, and it's got his nutsack there.
Okay.
And the nutsack, and buddy's finished it up, taking a leak. And he's like, I wonder if it's soft. You can hear him in his head, and he's not saying. And he reaches up and he grabs the nutsack, gives it a little squeeze.
Yeah.
And his buddy's like, "How'd that feel?" Or he says, "What are you doing in there?" And he realizes he got caught squeezing the buck's nuts. Pretty good.
So one thing about taxidermy that I've sort of changed my opinion on over the years is, like, at one point it was like, why would I ever spend like 500 to 1,000 to 1,500 like on a to mount a deer? But then I shot a deer maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, really nice, like 5x8 whitetail.
Nice.
And I got it mounted, and I hadn't got a deer mounted for like 20 years. And, you know, also I was at a point in my life where I could probably afford it more than I could, but it brought me a lot of joy. Like I saw that, I see it every day, and it brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
Like,
It's nice to hear that.
I'm sort of regret that I didn't get, quite a few deer I've shot and mounted.
Yeah. Well, you know what? To me, they're memories. They're like photographs, and they don't have to be a big trophy buck that makes Boone and Crockett. It's like, that's the deer I almost froze to death dragging out.
Yeah.
That's,
A story is valuable
a story
too.
behind it,
Yeah.
or that's the one my son shot the tine off, and we've got it on the wall, and there's a story that we remember.
Yeah.
And it's not about the quote unquote trophy. It's a memory that's attached to each of these. And I can remember vividly every story when I look at those racks on the wall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I lost my first buck. My first buck rack. When I first lived here, I shot my deer with my dad, and I was living in an apartment, and it was up in the rafters in the basement. And when I moved out, rough time of my life, and I forgot all about it. And the landlord said, "Yeah, they're gone." So that's one I'll never get back.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're important. I think that my son's got his first and only buck, and I make that a second one here in a couple weeks, hopefully. His buck had chest deformity and testicular deformity. When we went up to get it, and it had this huge scab, so on its brisket, big deep V, like it was a mature buck. Like the bases were thick and heavy, but we're getting up to it, and its antlers are all mangled and weird looking. And I'm looking at his chest, and it's 4 inches wide, about 3 feet long, like 3/4 way down his chest onto his belly, and it's this big, thick scab. And I bet you that scab was 1.5 inches deep. And then on his nutsack, on the bottom of his nutsack, had this great big black scab too.
So you didn't get the nuts mounted?
No, that would have been a good one. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, so of course I'm like, what in the hell? It doesn't look like it's a skin deformity. It looks like something viciously happened to that deer. So and we're not around pavement. Like dirt roads, yes, but no pavement anywhere within 30, 40 kilometers. And I'm thinking, was it a fire? And I've always kind of thought about that the only thing in my mind that what had happened to that buck, because so his antlers came up and the brow tines are 4.5, 5 inch brow tines. Like it was a good deer. And its main beam came out and nice and heavy, and it go into the G2, and then it goes into this burlated knuckle that almost looks like if you've seen where bot flies get into the main beam and they create the pocket, and then the antlers go super small and it breaks into 3 points like this, and then the main beam goes down into 1/3 of the diameter and continues on for like 10 inches. And then it's on same on the other side. So it's a normal buck until it gets to its seconds. And then it's all a big knuckle, and then they're all pointy and stuff. So I'm thinking it was getting chased through the woods at mock chicken, tried to jump a road, hung its feet up, and then slammed the gravel and drug its dick in the dirt for like 40 yards across the gravel road, and like tore, you know what I mean? Like, how do you tear off your whole brisket and guts? And
How about a barbed wire fence?
no barbed wire fences. This is just north of town here. This was no specials. Up off the queue, and then you bust down onto the backside of the Hay River, up on the top of the Hay River Flats. So
Interesting, yeah.
is that NS or something like that, NS Road? It's just down in that river valley that goes down into the hay. But only dirt roads. There ain't no pavement anywhere around there. You know what I mean? Like that big. So I'm like, yeah. That would only make sense, right? I'm like, dude, I've thought about this, and I'm like,
3 a.m. Yeah.
I'm like, what did it do? Like, was it running so fast and it wiped out? Like, what would force a deer to crash its heart? Like, yeah. Wolves, cougar chasing it, something like that.
Yeah.
Or getting out of ice.
I saw a huge grizz this year, George. Well, you saw it on the
out of sharp
my
ice
Facebook
shelf.
page. That thing was with Kate with me. I'm like, thank God we're not on the Wheeler.
Yeah.
Jeez, we were way up north and got caught in a squall, and like it went from 16 to -2. It was like an 18-degree change in the snow coming in, and we got the hell out of there, and on the way home run into a huge grizz up on the Hightower Road. Like just absolutely monstrous. Like 9-foot bear. Like when it stood up in the road, went through a little gully and I was trying to film it. It stood up and it scared me, and I dropped my phone. Like just to see an animal stand up and its head would be up at the top of that moose. Like it was, yeah. That's a big.
I remember watching that video, and your daughter's in the back saying, "What's going on out there?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it, Daddy? Let me see.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll let you see later, Kate.
Yeah. Well, as we wind down this podcast, anything we should talk about? Scott, what do you?
Yeah. We hammered the techniques pretty good. The one we didn't touch on, I think it's worth it, is pushing bush. And deer drives, use your terminology. In Saskatchewan, it was always pushing bush. And we would strategically work with partners and set one guy up and strategically push a coulee, get him running out. Sometimes it was shotgun zone using buckshot. Sometimes it was muzzleloader. But I found it really challenging here, that technique on public land. You can sometimes do it now with these cut blocks, and there's little islands and corridors.
Riparian zones.
Yeah.
Buffers. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's much harder. And my question for the team here is, are you guys using it in the Northern Rockies here? If so, how, and has it been effective?
Well, you know my answer.
Yeah, I got the same one, man. No.
Yeah.
I've pushed, like I've had my nephew out, and they have so many outs. There's just the variables are so diverse that you'd need when you first said that, I'm like, okay, you got 2 football teams.
Yeah.
And you keep those guys 5 meters apart at because the woods are so thick, like they could dip dive and they're gone.
Needle in a haystack here. Yeah.
Well, there's cougars and they're dodging, like much like the prairies. They don't got the cougars and wolves as bad as out here, so they're predatory. Because they hear that bush bashing, you're clearing everything out within 5 kilometers.
Yeah, I don't know if we do that, but like me and my dad, we kind of do that when we're hunting. You know, like, okay, I'm gonna take
Circle
this
it.
section here, and my dad's like, I'm gonna push around this way.
Are you on farmland though?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. Is that a move you do, like when you're hunting?
Oh,
with your
that's
sons
where
and
it
stuff?
works. It works
Yeah.
like a charm in farmland. In Saskatchewan, you think of big open fields and there's this little clump of trees in a little valley. Mm-hmm. Bingo. You know something's holed up in there. So how are you going to approach it?
Yeah.
What we found is don't go too hard. Like people hear like deer drive, like get out the pots and pans, make a lot of noise. No, you're way better still to do that stealth hunting so you don't.
So you got one guy standing in the field and another guy pushing through the trees, and then
Number one, everyone's in blaze orange, so nobody gets
Yeah.
shot. And then you strategically work on it.
Yeah.
But it can work, and it can work quite well.
I've participated in deer drives in Ontario. Father-in-law's hunt camp, we go up, and that was just it. I'd get me and one other guy, or like depending on how we have one shooter or 2 shooters, if you got 5 or 6 guys, but on a small 40-acre lot, it's not too hard to get the perimeter, know where the deer are moving, and force them up for a shot. But yeah, we've done it there, but out here, I don't think I've ever seen anybody actually like. 'Cause to do it right, you need a few guys. Mm-hmm. If you want to drive a good section of land, and even at that point, there's just so much land.
Yeah.
We're lucky. We are blessed. We live in Crown.
Yeah.
Like, man, oh man, I think about it more and more. That we're very lucky where we're at.
Hey, George, maybe just one plug for safety on this podcast.
Yeah.
It seems I seem to be the tree stand hunter out of us here. Like tens of thousands of people in North America get hurt or killed every year in tree stand accidents. So,
just falling out of them is the
Securement.
It's mostly climbing up or climbing out. People don't just fall out of stands when they're in them, but when you're getting out and you're getting in, and if you're not always attached to a safety rope, then you can fall at any time. When I hunt a tree stand, I'm always attached to a safety rope. I'm never not belayed in.
Yeah.
So when I go up, I just move a prusik knot up, I sit there and I move the prusik knot down to get out of it. And you can figure out how to do this search it on Google. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
But, I'm a rock climber for 40 years, and I had a pretty, cavalier attitude toward climbing in and out of tree stands.
Yeah.
Right? Just like, I'm a climber. What's going to happen to me?
Yeah.
But, over the years getting older and then just seeing and hearing all the stories and knowing people personally who that's happened to. There's people in Hinton that's happened to.
Yeah.
And just, safety, man, when you're hunting in a tree stand, that's got to come.
Yeah, you get real excited.
Ahead of
forget
everything.
You're 10 feet in the air.
Yeah.
How high are your tree stands?
About 25 feet is usually what mine are.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're up there. You're putting them up there.
Yeah.
That's a 25 feet. I'm not scared of heights, but 25 feet's a long ways up in a tree.
It's a long way to fall.
I find that at that height, you get away with a lot lot more movement than you do.
Their line of sight's not there, even if they're coming on. If you're on a slope, 25 feet up, they'd have to. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's a good point, Aaron. I've got a friend who got paralyzed falling out of a tree stand. The other thing you got to think about is you're often hunting solo. Does your wife know where your tree stand is? Probably not.
Yes, my wife.
Are you in cell phone service? All of these factors. Like if you fall, break your back, it's not just breaking your back. It's going to get cold. It's going to get dark. Who can find you, right? So, yeah.
There's a handful, only a couple guys. Well, my wife is my guy. So she knows how I hunt. So I'm never in one spot. She just needs to know the side hill or the section of road that I'm going to be at or the area. And then they'd be like, she'd tell search and rescue. She'd be like, somewhere in this square 4 or 5 kilometers, you're gonna find them.
Yeah.
But I have an inReach
points.
So
Yeah.
I have an inReach, a satellite device. So
Yeah.
if that happens, nobody has to search an area.
I have my Garmin if I'm doing something hardcore, like if I'm going on the river or if I'm heading up into the mountains, proper, the inReach is with me. We do have one of those. It's not always with me, but
November, I mean, for the most part, that's the last chance. Scott, you got a little late season this year too, eh? Like you're going into...
Yeah, I'm going late season cow elk up to Grand Prairie after Christmas, so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
To
That's
extend
going to
your
stretch
season a
the
bit.
season out a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
was that an undersubscribed tag or?
Yeah, it sounds like they're pretty easy to get up there.
The cow elk are pretty thick up that way. I was invited for a hunt this year.
Yeah.
Well, good luck everyone hunting this November. Matthew Ritchie at the next chapter. Follow along with, you post a lot of cool videos out there, and it seems like you're going to be fired up this next month, hey? If your
Yeah,
kids come
I
out
haven't
and-
posted a lot the last 6 weeks or so after Mill shut down that, but got a lot of the videos from bow hunting. Should be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron, I just saw you posted some pictures of your latest fishing trip. You got a video for coming out on YouTube?
I
for
have
that?
a lot of video.
Yeah.
But I'm actually working on one right now that's going to be a long one because I went with another guy, another YouTuber, and I have 7 cameras over 3 days.
Holy moly.
And so it's a bit overwhelming just to even try to figure out how to put it together. So working on that even today. I was working on that. So
Which
What were you
river
fishing?
guys in?
well, I won't tell you which river, but but it's a pretty cool canyon.
That's why I asked, what were you fishing?
None,
Not where were you fishing?
none your business, River. Yeah.
Lots of cool fish, amazing country, lots of cool drone footage.
Yeah.
Nice.
But now it's winter, and that's when I start doing
all your editing.
My editing, yeah.
Cool. Flyfish-bowhunt-Alberta on YouTube and aj.fishing.alberta on Instagram. Scott, Northern Rockies Bushcraft. Looks like you were just out doing like some winter camping there too, eh?
Yeah, I was out double lean-to doing some hunting.
Yeah.
Fun. If you've never slept in a double lean-to, you got to do it. It got so hot with the long fire.
Yeah, you got to put like a 10-foot fire in between you guys. Eh?
Yeah, so your logs 6 foot long.
6 foot.
Between two guys, two lean-tos, and man, you're toasty warm.
Yeah.
Do you ever
I
go?
was sweating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Matt's trying to get some info on.
the ridge of the river, right before where the truck pullout is, up on.
Oh, you think you saw where I was camping?
No, it's just very familiar area. I didn't want to tell everybody where it was.
We'll have to talk.
Yeah,
after
no.
we turn the mics
As soon
off.
as you said outdoor bushcrafting, and well, I need to take a picture of those links so that I can get everything.
Yeah.
But there was somebody up there. They were bushcraft survival camping last winter.
Okay.
It would have been March, February. Yeah, March. I was up there predator hunting and getting ready to do some moose shed hunting.
Oh yeah.
And I just rung a bell. I'm like, oh, that sounds right up. I was like, where are you?
Yeah, it could have been me. I'm always out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Oh, cool.
Well, thanks for coming on, guys. I think this was we covered a lot of stuff, but I think there's some good tips in there. Yeah. Anything else you guys need to add before we shut her down?
Oh yeah, we never did do the field dressing and any tips on handling.
that's part 2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it'll
another
have to be,
podcast.
Zip ties to your friends.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot to that.
We'll get into that and then hopefully get a little update on how everything happened in November. So thanks for listening. Leave us a review on Spotify, Wilderness Wave at outlook.com. Send a message in, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Wilderness Wavelength.